Hello, this is the LEGO Star Wars AT-ST Raider for the new series, The Mandalorian. Let me give you a quick look at everything that is here with the build and also the figures, then I'll come back, focus a little bit more on some details, and also give you some comparisons and answers to viewer questions. The entire walker is based on the design first seen in Return of the Jedi, but this one has some new coloration and also some modifications. The things that stick out the most compared to regular Imperial AT-STs that Star Wars fans have been used to for years are the legs, which here are mostly rendered in brown and red. The brown color that you see is LEGO's regular modern reddish brown, not a dark brown, so it does have some proper color pop to it from a distance, and there is quite a bit of reliance on stickers for some of the details on the feet to represent battle damage and also just regular surface texture, and also for the white markings that have been applied to this one also on the sides. There are some additional physical greebling details as well, which suggest some field hacks that have been done in universe or some modifications, and some additional small stickers are also used inboard here for some finer details, littler things. They're also using some ingot pieces to get some additional texture in there. I've got some paint roller pieces used on the top of the base of the hull there. And then as you get up to the top section, the major color difference compared to regular Imperial ones is that most of the gray here is actually dark gray. Normally you're used to seeing light gray, and that's something that doesn't strike the eye, at least to me, at first when I see this. It's more the bright red and the brown, but you look at it a little bit more and yeah, all of this is actually different in its color scheme. There is some light gray, but it's mostly dark. And again, you get some additional stickers applied on there. Let's take a look at some of the functions of this. First of all, while we're on this side, the grenade launcher is able to rotate up and down. These go up and down at the front. We also have the missile launcher pod over here, which rotates. This is not attached all that well. It can actually pop off easily, but just something to look out for there. This also has a built-in shooting function. You see the two little red dots on the sides here. Those are spring-loaded shooters that are well embedded into the base of this, and you fire them by pushing these remote actuators on the back, just one at a time, so they're fairly well hidden away. You don't see them most of the time, and you can just leave both of those out if you don't want to see that little bit of red at all. But that's nicely integrated. The entire hull, the main top portion of it, the head, will also rotate from side to side with this remote knob on the back, and the mechanism for that is also pretty well hidden away. I mean, the knob itself is visible, but it fits into the color scheme, and you don't see any of the gearing or anything. So this really feels like there's a distance there, and it helps it to feel like it's a little bit alive. Just having that bit of distance really, from where you're touching it, and also the direction that it's moving and the rate at which it moves, I think is done very nicely. And it has a ratcheting mechanism in there, so you're able to get it perfectly straight as you want. As for the legs, it's a walker, right? So always something that I like to see in a walker is the ability to have some suggestion of a walking stance. Well, this one unfortunately disappoints. Once again, you can't move the legs forward. You move them back a bit. That's about the best you can do to get kind of an action type of pose. It'll just balance right there. It looks like it's tipping forward though, but beyond that, I mean, that's not going to work. Not being able to move the legs forward at all is it's unfortunate, and it's something that takes away from the potential fun of having a walker. So to make it walk, you just kind of do like that. That's about all that you can do with it in total. None of these joints down here are able to move at all. That's all just simulated stuff. Let's take a look at the interior though. In universe, these are crewed by two people who sit side by side. No such luck in the LEGO version. You have just a single seat there in the center. There is a console at the front which uses a sticker, and there is a spot for the pilot or driver's weapon. For more realistic access to the cabin, you just open up the top, and there are a couple of bars on the sides so you can attach a figure's hands there and make it look like they are standing half inside, half out. Boba Fett? Boba Fett where? This is not Boba Fett. This is the as yet unnamed Mandalorian, star of the show, who uses actual Mandalorian armor, like Boba Fett, who was not a Mandalorian, did as well. So a lot of things here will be familiar looking to many people, just with a different color scheme. Very nice print, I'd say, for the torso. A decent print for the hip and leg pieces, but not quite as good. No printing around the sides here. The helmet doesn't have the additional attachment on the side of it that Boba Fett did, because, well, he's not Boba Fett. Got a small new cut of cape, just using the older style of cape piece around the back, the older material that is. And there's the print on the back of the torso, which also looks pretty good. I don't know what's going on with his weapon. That looks pretty weird to me, having the hand, the robot hand at the end of it. And yeah, there's no face. Now, this character does have a name. This is Cara Dune. Notice there is some pretty fine detailing in the torso print there, but the light has to hit it just right for you to be able to notice that, because otherwise it's basically gunmetal gray printed against gunmetal gray, or a dark silver printed against gunmetal gray, but it's nice when you do catch it. Also, gunmetal gray for her is the extension for the barrel of her weapon, which is obviously a long gun sniper rifle type of thing. Pretty good printing for the legs there as well, and similar printing around the back of the torso, where again, if the light hits it right, you will see all that fine detailing. Otherwise, it's mostly hidden away. Good, strong, alternate face print as well gives her a second expression. Here's one of two Clat Inian warriors. Clat Inian, not to be confused with Klaatu, who was actually a green-skinned Nikto, not to be confused with Nikto, actually the red-skinned Nikto. This is a Clat Inian like Barada. If you are confused right now, good, you get it.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
You must remember those words.
Basically, is a bad guy. It's an alien, first seen in alien race, first seen in Return of the Jedi. He was dog-faced there and looks like an orc in Lego form. There is no alternate face for this one, but a little bit more detail to see on that head, which is printed up pretty nicely. Here's the other Clat Inian, who has the same legs but a different torso print, and they've reused the Ultron lower jaw piece in gunmetal gray here to give him a little bit of armor. It'll be interesting to see how that looks specifically in the show, but I like the idea. I think that it's a good use of that piece to get in something that's like a metal collar. I imagine this guy would be higher in rank amongst the raiders. He also has a barrel extension. His main gun is gunmetal gray, and the extension is dark brown, and there's a print around the back of this different torso. And finally, here are the leftover pieces for this set, including one extra bolt for the spring-loaded shooters in the AT-ST. The suggested retail price for this set is $50 US, which I feel is too much, even though the price to part ratio suggests that it's in a good range. Just the amount of stuff that you get here is not enough, I think. And if you see this box in person in a store or something, do know that the actual thing you'll build is quite a bit smaller than the size of the box suggests. However, the good news is that as of the day of the release of this to the public, Triple Force Friday 2019, already major retailers had this on sale, or at a discounted normal street price of $40 US. So that's much, much more reasonable, I think, for the amount of stuff that you get here. It's the same price that we had to pay for the totally incomplete First Order AT-ST that just didn't have a head, and also the same price as the Rogue One Imperial AT-ST before that, which was beautiful and actually had one less figure than this one. So I think the deal that we get with this on the street now at $40 is good. $50? Nope, I wouldn't pay that, but $40? Yes. Now naturally, plenty of people have asked me to compare this to the Rogue One AT-ST, and I will be happy to oblige on screen here, and some have even asked me to compare it to the overpriced, incomplete garbage that was the First Order AT-ST. I'm happy to oblige there as well, not just to further shame this horrible, horrible thing, such as it was, but there's actually some good reasoning behind bringing this on screen, because there are some similarities between these two that don't exist between these two. Let's forget about the head completely, just leave that out, and be serious about it. Stop making fun of him for this sham, such as it was. First, let me compare these two just directly, though, and talk about their similarities and differences. Again, kind of getting back to that idea of converting this to an Imperial one, which I really don't recommend. If you want an Imperial one, get this in the first place, because there are so many pieces that you're going to want to replace here. At the bare minimum, you've got to get rid of the red. You've got to do it. But then you're going to be left with plenty of brown as well. Even if you leave the stickers off, still that brown stands out, and it looks, at the very least, it looks rusted. One thing that I actually do like here is the dark gray main color. I think that a dark gray ATST on the whole, just sticking with a dark gray theme throughout the entire thing, could be interesting. We've seen so much light gray from Imperial stuff. But you can see plenty of similarities between these two. Many, many pieces, forgetting about color, just the structure and the actual physical pieces are identical between the two. The main build techniques, the main strategies for assembling this are the same. How the sides are attached, so much is the same. But the major area, you'll see a lot of little details that are done differently between the two. But the major difference is right down here at the base. This is actually a little bit more accurate to the real on-screen models than this, because this does bring in that extra arm. Technically, the real things have this arm here, which is the main arm, or the main leg, to which this pivot is attached. So it goes from body or base of chassis. This pivot goes out and is free swinging, and then this is attached to that, which is then attached to all the rest. So all of this should be able to move up and down on that arm, and this just doesn't have any suggestion of that whatsoever. And that's where this comes into play and actually becomes a worthy comparison to make. But bring that up. This has less weight on it to pull it down, so it's kind of difficult to get them into the same pose. See, that angles back maybe too much. I do wish there was an in-between there or something. But anyway, the base here, you can see that this is really based off this here. These two sections are the same. Very little difference there. This didn't use an ingot. This does, but for the most part, this whole section here has been copied over. So that's where you get more similarity here. Just forget about all this up here. The way that the legs are done is closer to the new one, which is good. It's good that they do try to move things forward where reasonably possible. But just between these two, it's great that they are at the same price, although you get one more figure with the new Raider set. I should have put this back over here. Anyway. And they do have the same limitations in terms of their posability and everything. This one, the missile launcher actually attaches to the side much better than this new setup here. I don't think I did anything wrong because this is pushed in as far as it'll go. But that is kind of the weakest thing, I think, on this entire set. It's just that this will fall off, I think, even during just normal play. It's much more secure over on this side, this part, because it goes through multiple pieces. But yeah, there's your comparison. Major thing that I still don't like here, that was also one of my complaints here, the use of those dang blue axle pins. I'm getting more and more tired of those. I went through a phase where I started to accept them more. I understand that they want to make things easier to build by having a color that you can recognize that will have these pieces not look like the standard pins, because if you did them in black, then they're more difficult to pick out from a pile of parts. That's why they do that. But do them in dark gray or something. They need to switch that. It's just so annoying. I'm sure that Lego designers themselves are super annoyed by that as well, because you look at this and they've got some dark tan, but dark tan doesn't stand out like blue does. There's a little dark tan there. That's not that bad, but that blue, that is kind of bad. And all that blue, That is really bad. Really annoying. They need to change that. Just switch it up. Yeah, color lock it all you want, but make it dark gray. Please. Gosh. Now, a number of you asked me specifically about my thoughts on this Mandalorian figure, which is interesting to me because I'm not a figure specialist whatsoever myself. I'm always more into the builds, but I am interested in this question and kind of exploring it a bit more, this topic. Interestingly, also, I don't have a regular Django figure. I only have a Santa Django, at least that I could find complete right now, but just wanted to bring some more Mandalorians or Mandalorian armored folks onto the screen for the sake of comparison. First of all, the helmet, they're using the same helmet mold for all of these, and I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think they need to change that again yet. You know, I changed it once, and I think the one that they have right now is perfectly fine. One thing, well, two things about detail here. First of all, the printing or the relative lack thereof. This is a very special, you know, it's the hero character for the entire series, for the entire subset of the franchise here. So it would have been nice to get something that was detailed up a bit more than this. You know, he has just a plain single paint or print application for the visor and just normal printing for the torso, hip, and leg pieces, and that's it. And that is normal, you know, that's standard fare. That's usually what they do for just figures in general. But given the prominence of this character and adding on the fact that they will likely do very few additional sets for the Mandalorian, if any, I don't follow rumors and leaks and stuff very much myself, so I don't know if any have been confirmed up to this time. But I know that they're not going to put a ton of effort into supporting that show with merchandise. At least Lego is not, because they just don't. I'm sure they don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in it that it will be able to handle that much merchandise in terms of sales volume. So this may be it for Mandalorian figures, unless the series does really, really well. We might get another one, you know, for the Mandalorian in figures. And it's too bad that we didn't get something more special than this. But it's not a bad figure. Another specific thing is the cape. And more, LEGO seems to be going back to the original style of cloth for their capes. And I hadn't noticed it until people started pointing it out. And it does seem to be the case, at least so far. We haven't seen brand new sets coming out with more cloth capes, at least this wave. And that's too bad, because I do like the flowy cloth capes. I just like the fact that they don't crinkle up. You can bend them out of the way. You can have your figure sit down, you know, just move it out of the way. You can slide it to the side. The only thing is you need to not put the head on super hard, otherwise it gets crumpled up a little bit at the top around the neck, and it looks a little bit weird, and can also just do a little bit of place a little bit of stress on the fabric fibers, which can lead to more permanent like damage. But as long as you don't force the head on too hard and you're careful with it, then that material works out very well. However, you're not going to see nice crisp prints like this on a new cloth piece, so, you know, flowy cloth piece. So for the sake of consistency, if they had to choose only one, maybe it's better for them to go with the older style. But I feel like they have the ability to use both, and I really would have liked to see a flowy style on this guy, because it needs to flow. And how small it is, how narrow it is, you know, you want to be able to pose that going back. You want to be able to have him sitting down and stuff, and you just can't do that with the crinkly one. So that is unfortunate to me. Here's an interesting and unexpected question or request from a viewer named Melontuck on Instagram, who asks, can I head swap it with the Last Jedi ATST? Good question. I wouldn't have thought of that. And just to be complete, something complete. Right? All right. Let's take this out. There we go. So this is like a hybrid. It's a half and half between the light gray and the dark gray, right? It kind of works. It's not bad. I mean, it certainly physically works. Just the aesthetics could be questioned perhaps. But there you go. Thank you for asking that. I wouldn't have tried it otherwise. It's interesting. And of course, you're going to see almost the same thing on, the going with the Rogue One one. But one other thing that I want to do is go ahead and head swap with the Rogue One one. Just a couple options there for things that you can try out. Here's one more question from Instagram user Whoa Heeson, who asks, is the building process interesting? Does it feel repetitive or short? I've got to be casual and honest about this. When I built this set, I was cramming because much of my state was about to have its power turned off because our electrical utility company has just squandered its money away to shareholders and managers and stuff and hasn't maintained their lines. Anyway, I was cramming, so I had not gotten much sleep. As a matter of fact, that's what happened right there. I hadn't slept in over a day, so I was making silly mistakes as I was building this, and I corrected them as I went along. It is built correctly now, but I don't know. I was low on sleep, but I did feel like I was having trouble going through the legs. I kept getting confused. Certainly part of it was sleep deprivation, but it wasn't that enjoyable to put the legs together, to be honest. To me, the center section down here, the lower part of the body, the lower chassis, was fine, and the upper part, the main body up here, was also fine. I had no issues with that. Actually, it felt easier. Maybe it's because I had a little bit more recent experience getting the sides on. They just slipped right into place at the angle. Everything worked out just fine for that. The gaps are correct and as expected. So all this part up here was cool. Very little repetition. It all made sense. I like the relative amount of large structure building versus small detail. Placement. The number of stickers is not very enjoyable, but it wasn't particularly annoying to me. I feel like these here aren't that necessary. These at the front aren't that interesting to me, although I'm sure they are appropriate. The ones on the legs are the most difficult to apply, the legs and the feet, to get them to be even. But overall, I didn't find this to be frustrating except for the main structure of the legs, just because I kept messing it up, and that may have been just me. But overall, it's not a bad build at all. If you want to see that build process, including my mistakes and my corrections to those mistakes, because I don't skip steps in my build videos, you can see it in real time, or you can see the speed build. Again, in both cases, no steps are skipped. I'm showing you the entire process from beginning to end. I will link to both versions of the build momentarily. Thank you very much for watching the review and thoughts video. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for your feedback in advance, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Klaatu, Marata,